everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and our weekly look back at the hot comics from 6 months ago. This week we're looking back at the hot comics from July 1st, 2022, and recording this a little earlier in the week on December 27th, 2022. Life schedule and holiday schedule means I had to record this one earlier in the week. This won't come out till the 31st, so recording this a little bit earlier. So if something happens this week and my values don't reflect it, that's why. So, as always, we're looking back at the CBSI and the Comic Tom Key Collector hottest trending comics of the week. So, the CBSI Hot Top 10 Comic Tom list. Each week, they put out a list of 10 books that were hot that week. And we look 6 months later, we come back and look at them to see how they've responded to the market since they were hot. So really, it's not about looking at books that are down or anything like that, as I've been accused recently. It's really just about seeing what happened. And in 2022, it's mostly been down because the market in general is down, but also, especially it seems like for these books, I will say it's been super cold here this week, but if you watch this list, you might get warmed up because, yeah, there's a lot of fires that you could stand around. Anyway, let's get into this list and see what we can learn. First up, we got 8 Billion Genies, number 1. So this hit the list. At this point, it was right after the first issue had been released. We'd got option news. So there wasn't a huge... The buzz was just kind of starting with this. So this was early in the buzz. I know this hit the list multiple times after this. But this time it was 10 to 25 for number 1. Now it's a $15 to $35 book, so it's shifted up a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. 9.8, so it'll cost you $170 to $135 right now. So it's definitely been worth it, up a little bit. So nice way to start the list. We haven't had many ups recently, but we do get one here with 8 Billion Genies to start our list. It's been one of the books, I think, of the year of 2022 for sure. Definitely one of the independent comics that people really latched onto this year. Next, we have Once Our Land, number 1. This hit the list because we got a teaser trailer for an animated movie. Back then, raw copies jumped all the way up to $30. 9.8 hit 80. Now it's a $10 to $25 book. Definitely down. Borderline trap, but I'll be back. Yeah, so it's definitely, definitely fallen back. We haven't actually seen this movie yet, I don't think, despite the trailer. Not sure when the movie comes out, but the book, even with that, is not where it was when the trailer hit. Next, we're going to move in. We have Marvel Super Special, number 18, the first appearance of Indiana Jones in comics. This hit the list because we got the announcement that we were getting one last Indiana Jones film for sure. Since then, we've got more confirmation. We've gotten we've got more confirmation that it is coming out next year. Back then, raw copies were going for 80 plus. Now, raw copies will cost you... This was a hard one to judge. Raw copies were anywhere literally from $10 to $150. There was only a couple sales over 100 though. Most of the sales were were either really low or pretty high, but so on average, it's probably still around that $80 range. So I kind of put this as steady and worth it. It's just super hard to judge because it's so condition sensitive, and there's a lot of beat up copies that we're selling, so it's kind of hard to really judge where this book is setting and what they were judging it on back then. 9.6 would cost you $335. I don't know about you guys, so put this as steady and worth it overall because it's definitely overlapping that 80ish range, and kind of very fine copies are still in that range. But yeah, super looking forward to this. Hopefully it's better than the last one. We'll see. Next, we're going to move into covers, and our first cover we're going to talk about this week is Sonic the Hedgehog, number 50. The Tyson Hesse 1 in 50 that was going for 100 to 125 back then. Now it's a $35 to $60 book. Yeah, this has definitely turned into a bit of a dumpster fire. I thought this one I gave a little bit of a benefit of doubt because I thought, there might be enough Sonic collectors that would really last. No. It didn't. Got to a little over double ratio, but it still didn't hold up, and it is definitely went plummeting back down with the very few sales that are out there. Next, we have The Boys, number 7. This is the Del Auto variant. This is a reprint, obviously, of The Boys, number 7 for 777 copies. Show was coming out, a cool Homelander cover. Back then, raw copies were going for $40. Now it's a $10 to $45 book. 9.8. The one recent sale was at $200. but definitely a down and I'll be back as most of the sales are well under 40 right now. There's still a couple around selling around 40, but for the most part, you can get it definitely for less. Our next cover is Obi-Wan #1, the Tyler Kirkham Virgin variant. Back then, the Virgin variant on its own was going for 150. 9.8 went for 200 plus. Now, there's been no singular sales, raw sales of the Virgin variant in the last few months. The ones that did sell were 3 sets of the Virgin and the trade dress. 120, 75 for 2 were the 2 sales. And then there was the one singular auction went for 11. And that was for a set. There's a lot of these listed around that 75 plus range. But not many sales. People aren't really willing to pay it. I think you're probably closer to the 11 than the 120, 75 on a consistent price for this. I mean, the most recent 9.8 only went for 75. So yeah, this has definitely turned into a bit of a dumpster fire from those $150 heights to what it's going for now. Next, we have Amazing Spider-Man #1, the Patrick Gleason Virgin variant of the Goblin Queen, or Queen Goblin. I think it's Queen Goblin because Goblin Queen is actually Madeline. So yeah. Anyway, she showed up. She was a character introduced in the previous run, right toward the end. Hasn't really showed up in the new run yet, although I think they've been hinting at her coming up here in the near future. Back then, this was going for 100 to 125. This Virgin variant. Another one where just very few sales recently. 2 raw sales, 80 and 115. And then 2 9.8 sales, 82 and 89. So basically the same price or less than those raw sales. Overall, I would definitely put this as an I'll be back and a down. High asking price for this one, but again, not many sales to support that asking price. With that, our last cover of the week is Black Panther #1 from 2009. This is the Marco Djurdjevic Namor variant. Obviously, this was in the run-up to the new Black Panther movie. Technically, this book, like the regular cover of this, has that Shuri cover as Black Panther, but that doesn't happen in this book. So without it being on the cover, it doesn't really link to that. It was really just a cool Namor cover linking into Black Panther, I think is why this was hitting the list. But back then, this variant was going for 50. Now it's a $10 to $25 book with most of the sales under 20. So this definitely turned into a bit of a dumpster fire. If you were chasing after this, Djurdjevic, I can't say his name, but this Namor cover, yeah, it definitely was worth waiting for. Next, we have Black Cat #12, and all 3 of these next 3 books are all related to this, and this is the first cover appearance of Iron Cat. The armor previously appeared in #11. This was a new character was wearing this and part of a new storyline. Back then, raw copies were going for 25 to 40. Now, raw copies will cost you 5 to 20. 9.8 will cost you 60 to 90. So this is another one. In this issue, it was Felicia wearing the armor. We'll get to who was wearing it that was prompting it to hit the list here in just a second. But yeah, this definitely turned into a dumpster fire if you were paying 30, 40 bucks for this. And now it's a $10 book, basically. Next, we have Iron Cat #1. This is what prompted the book to hit the list. We get Tamara Blake, basically stealing the armor or taking the armor and becoming Iron Cat. This is the scan 1 in 50. This 1 in 50 was only going for 75, 80, but so it wasn't even double ratio, which is not a good sign, even with it being a first appearance of a character as a character. Back then, raw copies were, like I said, we're going for 75, 80. Now it's a $20 to $30 book. 9.8 only costs you 60 to 110. So another dumpster fire. If you're keeping track, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dumpster fires already this week, and we are not done. So yeah, this one's definitely come crashing back down. I don't even know if the Iron Cat series is still going on or if this Tamara Blake thing amounted to anything. I've heard no one talk about it since then. Next, we have Spectacular Spider-Man Annual #4 from 1984, and this is the first appearance of Tamara Blake. So this is the character that became Iron Cat, and back then this book was going for $30 to $40, and now it's a $1 to $15 book. Another definite dumpster fire here. This has come crashing back down. This character apparently did not really hit with people, and people are not as interested in this book any longer, at least right now. So another dumpster fire. As I said, we weren't done, and we're still not done. So next we have Doctor Strange, number 384, the first appearance of the Void symbiote. This is the second print cover of this book. Back then it was going for $35 to $40. Now it's a $20 to $25 book. So this one just turned into a trap. Another part of that whole null symbiote verse that Donny Cates had set up, and this is another character that was part of that. And we've kind of moved away from some of that now that Cates isn't really writing those books anymore. So don't know if this character is ever really going to mount to anything, but yeah, it's definitely come back down and turned into a bit of a trap as we've moved away from Cates' run. Next, we have the free comic book day, Avengers, X-Men, Eternals, Judgment Day. This is the first appearance of Bloodline, the daughter of Blade. Back then, this free comic book day book was going for $3, and now it's basically a $4 to $9 book. There was no $10 sales that I could find, but 9.8s were going for $60 to $100. So yeah, this is another up and worth it book. So we had 2 ups this week. Woohoo! Bloodline is getting her own series coming this spring. So yeah, that has been part of probably what's continuing to promote this book. Plus, people are speccing this as a character that might show up in a Blade movie. We'll see about that, but definitely a character that Marvel's putting a little bit of an effort behind to introduce with her getting her own series. All right, next we have one controversy-related book, and this is actually a book that was on the list last week, and this is What If Miles Morales, number 4. This is the one with the controversial portrayal of Miles that people have apologized for, but they didn't actually retract the book. Back then it was going for $15 to $30. Now it's a $1 to $10 book. 9.8 only costs you $40 to $50. So another definite trap is the interest has just faded on this. People just stopped caring about the book because it was not a good book. And it didn't get recalled, so it didn't become a limited book either. Next, we got 3 MCU sort of related books. We have Secret Wars number 2, from 2015, the first appearance of God Emperor Doom. And this is basically Howard Stern was talking to somebody and sort of confirmed rumors was what he said. Maybe people took as him confirming that Doom was going to appear in upcoming Marvel stuff. I think that's pretty secure that we will get Doom at some point, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen anytime soon. But back then, this jumped up to a $15 book on the raw side. But 9.8, there was a high 9.8 sale for $420. And that's the one I'm going to judge this on because it's still a $5 to $20 book. So it's not really moved that much. It's a bit of an I'll be back on the raw side. But 9.8 will cost you $50 to $90. Whoever paid that $420, there is definitely a dumpster fire right there on the 9.8 side. Even if the raw side, if you bought a raw copy, then you probably did okay. You're doing okay. It's a bit of an I'll be back, but not too bad. Next, we have Vengeance number 1, the first appearance of America Chavez. And this is, we got confirmation that she was going to be on one of the Disney Plus shows coming down the line following her appearance in Doctor Strange. Raw copies, we're going for $260 on the raw side, 9.8, $750. Both still way down from the Doctor Strange trailers and announcement stuff. Now a raw copy only costs you $75 to $125. 9.8 only costs you $500 to $600. So a trap. This is a trap borderline dumpster fire on the raw side, but on the 9.8 side, probably an I'll be back. But definitely a book that if you're interested in the character, a much better time to be going after America Chavez than 6 months ago or a year ago. Next, we have we have Miss Marvel number 12, the first appearance of Red Dagger. He'd finally showed up in the show. Back then, raw copies were up to $20. 9.8 hit $210. Now it's a $5 to $15 book raw. 9.8 only going for $50. So a bit of a trap here on the I'll be back side, maybe an I'll be back there, or on the down and on the raw side, a bit of a trap. Definitely a trap, borderline dumpster fire on the 9.8 side, but there was only one sale to support that 9.8 that was so much lower. So I didn't really hold that against this one, and I went with trap instead of dumpster fire on this one. But yeah, for sure, down. Another book that's down as we've moved away from the appearance in the MCU. has come crashing back down, which has been very typical even before the 2022 downturn the last couple years. Everything, once the characters appear, have been plummeting in value. So that is our list this week. I want to thank you guys for watching. Wish you all a happy new year, and we will catch you next time.